The day started like any other on the International Space Station. Captain Jae-sung floated in the observation module, gazing at the blue marble of Earth below. His dark eyes reflected the planet's beauty as he sipped his morning coffee from a special space cup. Suddenly, a bright flash lit up the stars. Jae-sung blinked, unsure if he had seen anything at all. But then it happened again, a pulse of light that seemed to come from beyond the moon. "Hey, Jae-sung," called Dr. Yuna, the station's science officer. "Are you seeing this on your monitors?" Jae-sung turned to his console. The screen showed a strange energy spike coming from deep space. "I see it, Yuna. Any idea what it could be?" Before Yuna could answer, a loud beep echoed through the station. It was the emergency communication system. Jae-sung's heart raced as he pushed off the wall and glided quickly to the main control panel. He pressed the receive button, expecting to hear from mission control. Instead, a strange, gurgling voice filled the air. "Attention, humans of Earth. We are the Volari. Your planet is now under our control." Jae-sung's eyes widened. He looked at Yuna, who had just entered the module. Her face was pale with shock. The voice continued, "You have 48 hours to evacuate your major cities. Resistance is futile. We possess technology far beyond your understanding. Those who flee will be spared. Those who stay will face the consequences." The message repeated once more before cutting off, leaving the space station in eerie silence. "Did that just happen?" Yuna whispered, her voice shaking. Jae-sung nodded slowly, his mind racing. "We need to contact Earth immediately." As Jae-sung worked to establish a link with mission control, Yuna's gasp made him turn. Through the station's large windows, they saw something that made their blood run cold. A massive ship, easily the size of a small moon, appeared from behind Earth's natural satellite. Its surface gleamed with an otherworldly metal, covered in strange symbols, and pulsing with eerie lights. "It's beautiful," Yuna murmured, despite her fear. Jae-sung couldn't disagree. The alien ship was a marvel of engineering, far beyond anything humans had ever created. But its presence filled him with dread. The communication panel crackled to life. "ASS, this is Houston. We're getting reports of a global broadcast. Please confirm if you've received any unusual transmissions." Jae-sung took a deep breath. "Houston, this is Captain Jae-sung. We can confirm. We've received a message from aliens calling themselves the Volari. They're demanding Earth's surrender." There was a long pause before Houston replied. "Understood, ISS. Stand by for further instructions." As they waited, Jae-sung and Yuna watched more ships appear. Smaller crafts, still enormous by Earth standards, emerged from the mothership. They formed a pattern around the planet, like a net closing in on its prey. "What do you think will happen?" Yuna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jae-sung shook his head. "I don't know, but I do know one thing. Humans won't give up without a fight." Down on Earth, chaos erupted as the alien message was broadcast on every TV channel, radio station, and electronic billboard. People poured into the streets, some in panic, others in disbelief. In New York, crowds gathered in Times Square, staring up at the giant screens displaying the alien ultimatum. In Tokyo, bullet trains filled with people fleeing the city. In Rio de Janeiro, beaches emptied as residents rushed to gather supplies. World leaders scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were called, militaries were put on high alert, and scientists worked frantically to analyze the alien transmission. As the first day wore on, a strange calm settled over the planet. The initial panic gave way to a grim determination. In cities around the world, instead of mass evacuations, people began to organize. Jae-sung watched from above, amazed at the resilience of his fellow humans. "Houston," he radioed. "What's the status down there?" "Captain," came the reply. "It's extraordinary. People are refusing to leave. They're forming community defense groups, setting up shelters, sharing resources. It's like nothing we've ever seen. A smile tugged at Jae-sung's lips. They thought we'd run, he said to Yuna. They don't know humans very well, do they? As the 48-hour deadline approached, Earth didn't empty. It prepared. The Valeri had made a crucial mistake. They had underestimated the human spirit. In his heart, Jae-sung knew this was just the beginning. The real test was yet to come. But as he looked down at the planet he called home, he felt a surge of pride. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it together. The aliens thought humans would flee. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As the sun rose on the second day after the Valeri ultimatum, the world was a changed place. The initial shock had worn off, replaced by a mix of fear, anger, and determination. In Seoul, Dr. Yunji sat in her lab, surrounded by computer screens and strange-looking machines. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but they sparkled with excitement. As one of the world's top xenobiologists, she had dreamed of this moment her whole life. "Look at this structure," she murmured to her assistant, pointing at a blurry image on her screen. It showed a close-up of a Valeri ship captured by a powerful telescope. Their biology must be so different from ours to create this technology. Her assistant nodded, too tired to speak. They had been working non-stop since the aliens arrived, trying to learn anything they could about the Valeri. Suddenly, Yunji's phone buzzed. It was a message from the government. They wanted her to join an emergency scientific council. "Pack your bags," she told her assistant. "We're going to the capital." Meanwhile, in a small town outside of Busan, former Special Forces operator Hoon was addressing a crowd in the town square. His voice was firm and confident, a stark contrast to the fear on many faces around him. "We will not run," Hoon declared, his fists clenched at his sides. "This is our home. We will defend it." The crowd cheered, their fear turning to resolve. Hoon had spent the last day organizing a resistance movement. He knew that regular armies might not be enough against the alien threat. They needed every person to be ready to fight. "We start training today," Hoon continued. "Every able-bodied person will learn to defend themselves and their neighbors. We'll turn every street into a fortress." As Hoon spoke, people began to nod. They started to believe they had a chance. Far above the Earth, Captain Jae-sung and Dr. Yuna watched the Valeri ships with growing unease. The alien vessels had started to move, forming a tighter ring around the planet. "What are they doing?" Yuna asked, her voice tense. Jae-sung shook his head. "I don't know, but I don't like it. We need to warn Earth." He floated quickly to the communication panel and called Houston. "This is the ISS. The Valeri ships are on the move." "There." Suddenly, the station shook violently. Alarms blared as Jae-sung and Yuna were thrown against the walls. "What was that?" Yuna cried out. Jae-sung's fingers flew over the controls. "Some kind of energy pulse. It didn't hit us directly. But, oh no." "What is it?" Yuna asked, fear clear in her voice. "All our communications with Earth are down," Jae-sung said grimly. "We're cut off." Down on Earth, chaos erupted as all satellite communications suddenly failed. TV screens went blank, cell phones lost signal, and the internet ground to a halt. In the South Korean capital, Yunji arrived at the government building just as the blackout hit. She watched in horror as panic spread through the streets. Cars crashed as traffic lights failed, and people ran in confusion. "We need to get inside," a security guard yelled, ushering Yunji into the building. "It's not safe out here." As the door closed behind her, Yunji's mind raced. What were the Valeri planning? And how could she help stop them? Back in Busan, Hoon quickly took charge of the situation. He organized groups to check on the elderly and sick, set up hand-crank radios for communication, and started planning for worst-case scenarios. "This is what they want," he told his growing group of volunteers. "They want us scared and confused, but we won't let them win. We'll show them what humans can do." As night fell, the world held its breath. The Voleri's 48-hour deadline was almost up, and no one knew what would happen next. In homes and shelters across the globe, people huddled together, finding comfort in each other's presence. They shared food, told stories, and tried to stay brave in the face of the unknown. Jae-sung and Yuna worked tirelessly on the space station, trying to restore communications. Yeon-ji and her fellow scientists raced against time to understand their alien foes. Hoon and countless others like him prepared to defend their homes and loved ones. The Voleri had thought humans would flee. But as the hour of reckoning approached, humanity stood its ground. They were scared, yes, but they were also united. And in that unity, they found strength. As the last minutes ticked away, a tense silence fell over the earth. Whatever came next, humans were ready to face it together. The real test was about to begin. The world held its breath as the Voleri's 48-hour deadline passed. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the sky lit up. Massive Voleri ships entered Earth's atmosphere, their hulls glowing red-hot from the friction. They looked like angry meteors, streaking towards major cities around the globe. In Seoul, Dr. Yeon-ji watched from the window of the government building. Her heart raced as she saw 3 huge ships descending towards the city. "We need to get to the bunker," a military officer shouted, grabbing Yeon-ji's arm. But Yeon-ji pulled away. "No," she said firmly. "I need to see this. I need to understand." As the ships got closer, they started to slow down. They hovered over the city, casting long shadows over the streets below. Then smaller craft began to pour out of the larger ships. "They're landing," Yeon-ji whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. In Busan, Hoon and his resistance fighters were ready. They had spent the last day setting up defenses and preparing for this moment. "Remember the plan," Hoon shouted to his team. "We're not here to win. We're here to survive and gather information. Hit and run." As Voleri ships descended on Busan, Hoon's fighters sprang into action. They used guerrilla tactics, striking quickly and then melting back into the city's shadows. To everyone's surprise, these tactics worked better than expected. The Voleri seemed confused by the humans' refusal to surrender or flee. Their attacks were strong but uncoordinated. High above the earth, Captain Jae-sung and Dr. Yuna watched the invasion unfold. They had managed to repair some of the space station's systems, giving them a bird's-eye view of the battle. "Look at that," Yuna said, pointing at a screen. It showed a group of humans in New York successfully pushing back a Voleri landing party. Jae-sung nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "They're not as unstoppable as they wanted us to believe." As the first day of the invasion wore on, a pattern emerged. The Voleri had superior technology, but they were struggling with Earth's diverse environments and the humans' unpredictable tactics. In the Amazon rainforest, native tribes used their knowledge of the jungle to ambush Voleri scouts. In the streets of Tokyo, civilians used makeshift weapons and sheer numbers to overwhelm alien patrols. In the Alps, skilled mountain troops led the Voleri into deadly traps. Back in Seoul, Yeon-ji had convinced the military to let her study a captured Voleri soldier. As she examined the alien, her excitement grew. "Their biology is so different," she explained to the generals. "They're used to a world with much less gravity and a thinner atmosphere. Earth is hard for them." This information spread quickly, boosting human morale. People realized the aliens weren't gods. They were just creatures from another world, with their own strengths and weaknesses. In Busan, Hoon's team managed to bring down a small Voleri ship. As they approached the crashed vessel, Hoon held up his hand, signaling his team to stop. "Wait," he said, his voice tense. "Something's not right." Suddenly, the ship's hatch burst open. A Voleri soldier stumbled out, clearly injured, but instead of attacking, it made a strange sound, almost like a cry for help. Hoon hesitated, then made a decision that would change the course of the war. "Don't shoot," he ordered. "Let's capture it alive." As night fell on the first day of the invasion, humanity had suffered heavy losses. Many cities were damaged, and countless lives had been lost. But the Volari had not won. Far from it. Humans had proven to be far more resilient and resourceful than the aliens had expected. Reports came in from around the world of successful defenses and even counterattacks. In the government bunker in Seoul, Yunji worked tirelessly, analyzing every piece of data about the Volari. In Busan, Hoon carefully transported his alien prisoner, hoping it might provide crucial information. And on the space station, Jae-sung and Yuna finally managed to reestablish communication with Earth. As Jae-sung shared what they had observed from space, he felt a surge of pride. The Volari thought we would run, he told Mission Control. They thought we would be easy to conquer, but they were wrong. Humanity is fighting back, and we're not going anywhere. As the world prepared for another day of battle, one thing was clear. The Volari had severely underestimated the human spirit. The invasion had begun, but the war was far from over. Humanity was just getting started. As the sun rose on the second day of the invasion, humanity was battered but not broken. The Volari had expected an easy victory, but they found themselves in a tough fight. In Busan, Hoon and his team worked to understand their alien prisoner. They had moved it to a secure location, an old bunker from the Cold War era. The alien was hurt but alive, its strange eyes darting around the room. Hoon approached it slowly, his hands open to show he meant no harm. "Can you understand me?" he asked, not really expecting an answer. To his surprise, the alien made a series of clicks and whistles. Then, from a device on its suit, came a robotic voice. "Yes, understand." Hoon's eyes widened. This was a breakthrough. "Why are you attacking us?" he asked. The alien's answer was unexpected. "Mistake. Bad information. Humans. Surprising." Meanwhile, in Seoul, Dr. Yunji had made a crucial discovery. She burst into the war room, where military leaders were planning their next move. "I found something," she exclaimed, her eyes bright with excitement, despite her obvious exhaustion. "The Volari. They're sensitive to certain sound frequencies." The generals looked at her in confusion. Yunji explained, "Their hearing is much more advanced than ours. But it also means we can use sound as a weapon against them." As the military leaders discussed this new information, a soldier rushed in. "Sir, we've just received a transmission from space. It's Captain Jae-sung." Up on the International Space Station, Jae-sung and Yuna had been working non-stop to help Earth. They had managed to hack into the Volari communication system, and what they found was game-changing. "The Volari fleet isn't as big as we thought," Jae-sung reported to Mission Control. "They expected us to surrender quickly. They don't have the numbers for a long fight." This news spread quickly around the world, boosting morale. Humans began to see a glimmer of hope. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to win. In New York, a group of engineers and musicians worked together to create massive sound cannons based on Yunji's discovery. In Rio de Janeiro, hackers used information from Jae-sung to disrupt Volari communications. And in Busan, Hoon continued to learn from the alien prisoner, gaining valuable insights into Volari tactics and weaknesses. The Volari, caught off guard by humanity's resilience, began to make mistakes. Their carefully planned invasion started to fall apart in the face of human creativity and determination. In London, a brave group of civilians used Yunji's sound weapon to drive back a Volari patrol. The aliens retreated in confusion, their movements jerky and uncoordinated. In Moscow, fighters used Hoon's guerrilla tactics to ambush a Volari landing party. The aliens, expecting to face a regular army, were unprepared for the hit-and-run attacks. And in Cairo, hackers used Jae-sung's information to take control of a small Volari ship. For the first time, humans were able to fly alien technology. As the day wore on, more and more reports of human victories came in. The Volari, who had seemed unstoppable just days ago, were now on the defensive. In the war room in Seoul, Yoonji watched the battle maps with growing hope. "We're doing it," she whispered. "We're actually pushing them back." In Busan, Hoon received news of the turning tide. He turned to the alien prisoner, who seemed to slump in defeat. "Your leaders were wrong about us," Hoon said firmly. "We're not weak. We're not cowards. We're humans, and this is our home." The alien made a sound that the translator couldn't quite catch, but Hoon thought it sounded almost like respect. Up on the space station, Jae-sung and Yuna cheered as they watched Volare ships retreat from cities around the world. "I can't believe it," Yuna said, tears in her eyes. "We're winning." Jae-sung nodded, a proud smile on his face. The Volare thought they knew what humans were capable of. They thought we would run and hide. But they were wrong. As night fell on the second day of the invasion, the mood on Earth had changed dramatically. Fear had turned to determination, and determination was turning to victory. The Volare had made a terrible mistake. They had underestimated the human spirit, the power of unity in the face of a common threat. And now, they were paying the price. The tide of the war was turning. Humanity wasn't just surviving, it was fighting back, and it was winning. The Volare thought humans would flee. Instead, they had proven everyone wrong. As the third day of the invasion dawned, a new feeling spread across the Earth. Hope. Humans were no longer just defending, they were ready to strike back. In a secret underground base near Seoul, Dr. Yoonji stood before a group of soldiers. She held up a small round device. "This," she said, her voice filled with pride, "is our secret weapon." The soldiers leaned in, curious. Yoonji continued, "It creates a sound that hurts the Volare, but is safe for humans. We call it the Screamer." Meanwhile, in Busan, Hoon prepared his team for their most daring mission yet. They had spent days learning from their Volare prisoner. Now, they were ready to use that knowledge. "Remember," Hoon told his fighters, "the Volare aren't used to Earth's gravity. They move slower than us. Use that to your advantage." As Hoon's team geared up, news came in from around the world. Humans everywhere were pushing back against the aliens. In Paris, people used mirrors to blind Volare soldiers, whose eyes were sensitive to Earth's bright sunlight. In Sydney, surfers rode waves to sneak up on Volare ships hovering over the ocean. But the biggest mission was yet to come. High above the Earth, Captain Jae-sung and Dr. Yuna prepared for their return. They had a crucial role to play in humanity's counterattack. "Are you ready?" Jae-sung asked, checking Yuna's spacesuit one last time. Yuna nodded, her face set with determination. "Let's show these aliens what humans can do." Their plan was bold. They would use the space station to get close to the Volare mothership. Then, they would sneak aboard and gather vital information. As Jae-sung and Yuna began their dangerous spacewalk, tension grew on Earth. Everything depended on this mission. In New York, people gathered in Times Square, watching the news on giant screens. In Rio, crowds prayed on the beaches. In Tokyo, children folded paper cranes for good luck. Hours passed with no word from the space team. People began to worry. Had something gone wrong? Then suddenly, screens around the world lit up. It was Jae-sung, broadcasting from inside the Volare mothership. "We did it," he said, his voice tired but triumphant. "We have their plans, their weaknesses, and something else." He paused, building suspense. "The Volare leaders are hiding a secret from their own people. They're losing the war, not just here, but on other planets too." This news sent shockwaves across the Earth. The Volare weren't an unstoppable force. They were already weakened, and now humanity knew it. With this new information, the counterattack began in earnest. Yoonji's screamers were used to drive Volare soldiers out of occupied cities. Hoon's team, using their insider knowledge, snuck aboard a Volare ship and took control. All around the world, humans fought back with renewed energy. They used everything they had: from high-tech weapons to simple tools. Farmers in India used tractors to tip over Volare land vehicles. Schoolchildren in Canada used social media to track alien movements. The Volare, already surprised by Earth's resistance, were completely unprepared for this united counterattack. Their carefully laid plans fell apart in the face of human creativity and determination. As the day wore on, more and more Volare ships retreated to space. The aliens who had seemed so powerful just days ago were now running away. In Seoul, Yunji watched the battle maps with tears in her eyes. Cities that had been under alien control were lighting up green, showing they were free again. In Busan, Hoon and his team celebrated their victory aboard the captured Volare ship. They had proved the humans could not only fight the aliens but beat them at their own game. And on the Volare mothership, Jae-sung and Yuna worked tirelessly to send every bit of alien technology and knowledge back to Earth. This information would help humanity for years to come. As night fell on the third day of the invasion, the truth was clear. The Volare had made a terrible mistake in attacking Earth. They had thought humans would be easy to conquer. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. Humanity had not only survived the invasion, they had turned the tables. The Volare were retreating, and Earth was emerging victorious. The aliens thought humans would flee, but humans had proved everyone wrong. They had stood their ground, fought back, and won. As celebrations began around the world, one thing was certain. This was not the end, but a new beginning for humanity. They had faced the stars and shown they were ready for whatever the universe might bring. The future was bright, and it belonged to the humans who had refused to give up. The fourth day of the invasion dawned, but it was clear that it was no longer an invasion. The Volare were in full retreat. All around the world, people watched in awe as the massive alien ships rose into the sky. The sight that had terrified them just days ago now filled them with a sense of triumph. In New York, crowds gathered in Central Park, cheering as each Volare ship disappeared into the clouds. In Tokyo, people set off fireworks, their colorful explosions a stark contrast to the alien weapons that had lit up the sky before. But not everyone was celebrating. In Seoul, Dr. Yunji sat in her lab, her face serious. "We can't let them all leave," she said to the military leaders around her. "We need to capture at least one of their ships. Think of what we could learn." The generals nodded, seeing the wisdom in her words. They quickly put out a call to all forces: capture a Volare ship if possible. In Busan, Hoon and his team heard the order. They looked at each other, a mix of excitement and fear on their faces. They had already captured a small Volare scout ship. Could they take on something bigger? "We've done the impossible before," Hoon said, his voice firm. "Let's do it again." As Hoon's team prepared for their mission, high above the Earth, Captain Jae-sung and Dr. Yuna were making their way back to the International Space Station. They carried with them a treasure trove of Volare technology and information. "Do you think it's really over?" Yuna asked, looking out at the retreating alien fleet. Jae-sung shook his head. "Not over," he said, "but it's a new beginning. Humanity has proven itself. The universe will never be the same." Back on Earth, Hoon and his team put their plan into action. Using the small Volare ship they had captured earlier, they approached a larger alien vessel that was lagging behind the others. "Remember," Hoon told his team, "we're not here to fight. We're here to outsmart them." With incredible skill and bravery, Hoon's team managed to sneak aboard the larger ship. They used Yunji's screamer devices to confuse the Volare crew, and their knowledge of Volare weaknesses to move quickly through the ship. In a matter of hours, they had taken control of the bridge. The Volare, caught off guard by the humans' daring and skill, surrendered without a fight. As news of the captured ship spread, cheers erupted around the world. It was the final proof of humanity's victory. But even as people celebrated, leaders around the world knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity now had proof that they were not alone in the universe, and they had alien technology beyond their wildest dreams. In Washington, D.C., the President of the United States addressed the nation. "Today we celebrate a great victory," she said. "But tomorrow we begin the hard work of rebuilding and preparing for our future among the stars." Similar speeches were given around the world. In Beijing, Moscow, London, and every capital city, leaders spoke of unity and progress. As the sun set on the fourth day, the mood on Earth was one of tired but joyful celebration. People who had been strangers just days ago now hugged in the streets, bound together by their shared experience. In her lab in Seoul, Yunji looked at the Volari technology spread out before her. Her mind raced with the possibilities. "We're going to learn so much," she whispered, her eyes shining with excitement. In Busan, Hoon and his team were welcomed as heroes. As they walked through the cheering crowds, Hoon thought about how much had changed. "We thought we were small," he said to his team, "but we proved we're capable of great things." And on the space station, Jae-sung and Yuna watched the Earth spin below them. It looked peaceful from up here, but they knew it would never be the same. "What do you think will happen now?" Yuna asked. Jae-sung smiled. Now we take our place in the universe. The Volari thought we would run and hide. Instead, we showed them, and ourselves, what humanity is truly capable of." As night fell across the Earth, people everywhere looked up at the stars. But now, instead of fear, they felt a sense of wonder and possibility. The universe had come to Earth, and Earth had risen to the challenge. The Volari had retreated, but humanity was just getting started. Their greatest adventure was about to begin. 1 year had passed since the Volari invasion. Earth had changed in ways no one could have imagined. In Seoul, Dr. Yunji stood in front of a large screen, addressing scientists from around the world. Behind her, a hologram of a Volari ship rotated slowly. "Thanks to the technology we captured," Yunji said, her eyes bright with excitement, "we've made more progress in 1 year than in the last 100. We're on the verge of faster-than-light travel." The room erupted in cheers. Humanity was no longer bound to Earth. The stars were within reach. Meanwhile, in Busan, Hoon walked through a busy spaceport. Ships of all sizes, some human-made and some converted Volari vessels, prepared for takeoff. Hoon smiled as he remembered the days when such a sight would have been unthinkable. He approached a sleek ship where his team was waiting. "Ready for another mission?" he asked. They nodded, eager to explore the new frontier of space. High above the Earth, the International Space Station had grown into a bustling hub of activity. Captain Jae-sung, now Admiral Jae-sung, oversaw the comings and goings of ships from all over the world. Dr. Yuna floated up beside him, tablet in hand. "The first colony ship to Mars is ready for your inspection, Admiral," she said with a smile. Jae-sung nodded, still amazed at how far they had come. Who would have thought, he mused, that an alien invasion would lead to this? But not all was peaceful. In Washington, D.C., world leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. The captured Volari had revealed unsettling news. There were other alien races out there, some friendly, some not. "We must be prepared," the U.S. President said, her face serious. "The Volari were just the beginning. We need a united Earth Defense Force." The other leaders agreed. The world had learned the hard way that they were stronger together. Back in Seoul, Yunji received an urgent message. The long-range sensors they had built using Volari tech had picked up something. A ship was approaching Earth, and it wasn't Volari. Heart racing, Yunji called Hoon, Jae-sung, and the world leaders. Within hours, humanity's best and brightest were gathered, ready to face this new challenge. As the unknown ship entered Earth's orbit, tensions ran high. Would this be another invasion, or something else entirely? To everyone's surprise, the ship sent a message. It was in perfect English. "Greetings, people of Earth," the message began. "We have heard of your victory over the Volari. We come in peace, seeking alliance." A ripple of excitement went through the crowd. Humanity's first peaceful contact with aliens. Yunji, Hoon, and Jae-sung were chosen to meet the new aliens face to face. As they boarded a ship to rendezvous with the visitors, they couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed. "A year ago, we didn't know aliens existed," Hoon said. "Now we're about to have diplomatic talks with them." Jae-sung nodded. "The Valeri thought we would run and hide. Instead, we've taken our place among the stars." As their ship docked with the alien vessel, Young-ji felt a mix of nerves and excitement. "Whatever happens," she said, "we've proven that humanity is ready for anything the universe throws at us." The airlock opened, and they stepped forward to greet their new galactic neighbors. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity had earned its place in the cosmos. Back on Earth, people gathered around screens to watch the historic meeting. Children looked up at the stars, dreaming of the adventures to come. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The Valeri invasion, once a nightmare, had become the catalyst for humanity's greatest leap forward. United by adversity, strengthened by victory, Earth was ready for a new chapter. As night fell around the world, countless people looked up at the sky. But now, instead of fear, their hearts were filled with hope and wonder. The universe had challenged humanity, and humanity had risen to meet it. The aliens thought humans would flee. They had proven everyone wrong. And now, the greatest adventure in human history was just beginning.